The young and beautiful Ikaza did not marry just anyone. She married a marquis more than 20 years her senior, becoming a familiar face in aristocratic society. At one gathering, the marquis introduces Ikaza and her family to Serrano, the newly appointed Spanish foreign minister, a man of striking presence. When Serrano mentions that Ikaza's sister is about to publish a novel, Ikaza warmly invites him to the book launch, hoping to show the nation's respect for culture. But just then, the man's assistant brings word that a guest is waiting to meet him. Serrano hurries away without even offering a polite goodbye. His arrogant attitude immediately leaves Ikaza with a bad impression. Soon after, the angry woman walks up to Serrano, who has just finished discussing business, and accuses him of being disrespectful. Seeing Ikaza angry like a young girl, the proud foreign minister actually smiles and sincerely apologizes to her. At the same time, the scene of the two talking is caught clearly by Ikaza's mother. Right after that, Serrano asks the lady to visit his private collection. This improper invitation is rejected by Ikaza on the spot, but to the man, it feels as if he has found a rare and tempting target. After Serrano leaves, Ikaza's mother warns her daughter not to get entangled with a powerful foreign minister, but Ikaza says her marriage is happy, and she will not let this change her life. Early the next morning, a ringing phone breaks the quiet of the house, yet when the servant answers, no one speaks on the other end. Ikaza quickly realizes it may be Serrano calling, so she tells the servant to hang up at once, but she herself is just as unable to face that magnetic voice. She wants to sit down and calm her emotions, but while reading the day's newspaper, Serrano's dashing image on the front page stirs her heart all over again. A few days later, at her sister's book launch, the man who has been haunting her thoughts unexpectedly appears, catching Ikaza completely off guard. The two are alone in the cloakroom, and Serrano confesses his feelings for her. Then,
No puedo parar de pensar en usted desde que la conocí. Me acuesto todas las noches imaginándomela a mi lado.
without hesitation, he kisses Ikaza. Although Ikaza tries to resist, the refusal on her lips cannot hide the tremor in her heart. Serrano wants to leave Ikaza a card with an address written on it, but once Ikaza regains her senses, she tells him to give up that idea. After she leaves, Serrano quietly slips the card into the coat she has hung up. What he does not know is that the coat does not belong to Ikaza, it belongs to Olivia, the governess who came with her. Meanwhile, the designer Balin arrives to make Ikaza a custom dress. As her closest male friend, he seems to sense what is weighing on her heart. Ikaza, in turn, confesses her worries without holding anything back. She cannot erase Serrano's image from her mind. She has never felt this kind of attraction before. Balin tries to warn her not to sink into an emotional swamp, because it will only trap her in a place she cannot escape. Some things are not meant to be touched, because once you touch them, you will get hurt. After these few sincere words of advice, it is unclear whether Ikaza can truly calm herself down. The scene shifts, and a noble lady steps out of an expensive car. She is actually Zita, the wife of Foreign Minister Serrano. She visits her sister's home, and her sister's husband is none other than Francisco, the famous local dictator. With this kind of family background, no matter what unhappiness Zita suffers, her sister will always have someone powerful to back her up. That night, Zita hopes to attend the next day's mass with her husband, but Serrano refuses her without giving any reason. Unable to vent her emotions, she can only call her sister and pour out her grievance. After hanging up, her sister immediately complains to her husband about everything Serrano has done wrong. The next morning, a solemn mass in an ancient church draws many distinguished guests. From the elegant front row seats, Serrano keeps turning his head, his eyes falling on Ikaza. This move does not escape the eyes of Zita's sister. As the ceremony ends, Serrano catches the moment when the Marquis is busy saying goodbye and confesses his feelings to Ikaza. His words carry a kind of confession that few women could easily resist, but Ikaza responds calmly, saying Serrano has imagined too much. Afterward, Serrano invites the Marquis to dinner and makes a point of saying he hopes Ikaza will come along. By noon, the Marquis and his wife arrive as promised. While the housekeeper introduces the paintings, Serrano seizes the chance to tell Ikaza in private about his longing for true love. He is certain that Ikaza feels something similar. He sighs that although plenty of people try to flatter him, no one truly understands him. The moment he finishes speaking, he kisses Ikaza. Ikaza softly protests that this is a misunderstanding. She has already chosen her life, and she does not want to lose her family and everything she has for a moment of emotional impulse. As they part, Serrano quietly tells Ikaza to meet him Friday at 4, at number 13 on William Street. At the same time, Olivia, the governess in the Count's household, discovers that she has been forced into an exchange. The British use her father's safety on the battlefield to threaten her, forcing her to secretly monitor Ikaza's family. In a photograph, she recognizes Serrano from the book signing and has no choice but to accept the deal. Meanwhile, Olivia remains confused about where the address card in her pocket came from. It is not until Friday, when Ikaza mentions the address to the driver, that Olivia suddenly understands. And on this very day, an excited Ikaza deliberately stops the car some distance from the building and walks alone into the place where she is supposed to meet Serrano. After being questioned by security, she walks decisively into the apartment. Before long, Serrano also enters the room they agreed on. Two hearts chasing danger and excitement are fully released in this moment. As they part, Ikaza asks when they will meet again. For Serrano, waiting too long is impossible. At his signal, Ikaza leaves first, but a delicate earring is left behind in the room. Meanwhile, Olivia follows the address on the note and arrives at the scene, just in time to see Ikaza walking out of the apartment. She quickly avoids being seen. Right after that, Serrano also drives away, but just as the car turns the corner, a deafening explosion tears through the entire street. Luckily, Serrano's car is not caught in the blast, but Ikaza, farther away, seems to sense something terrible has happened and quickly runs toward the sound. The horrifying scene before her pulls her deep into guilt, but at that exact moment, a reporter happens to capture her figure in a photograph. Back home, the Marquis seems to notice his wife's strange behavior lately, and that she has shown less concern for the children. Even so, her friend Balin believes Ikaza has been through many hardships and will not fall into any serious trouble. Just then, Ikaza hurries through the door. She tries to suppress the turmoil in her heart and ignore the conversation between her husband and Balin, but the Marquis quickly stops her. Then he leaves to handle his own work, letting her talk with Balin. Yet this close male friend unexpectedly notices that one of Ikaza's earrings is missing. Balin warns her that the Marquis is no fool, and she is taking a very dangerous risk. Although Ikaza is still shaken, she confesses what happened with Serrano, and she says the man she loves was blown up right before her eyes. At the same time, the boyfriend of the maid Matilda finally finds a new job. The Spanish people are struggling to survive through a long civil war. She often steals food from her employer's house so she can take better care of her boyfriend. The scene shifts, and Serrano is discussing World War II with his brother-in-law Francisco, stressing that they must choose a side. He says this will help Spain take its place in the New World Order, but his view was fiercely opposed by his brother-in-law. Just then, Ikaza's earring falls from Serrano's coat pocket and is spotted by Zita's sharp-eyed sister. He immediately explains that his wife has been looking for that earring for a month. Later, when the exhausted Serrano returns home, Zita sees the front-page newspaper photo and feels that the woman looks familiar, though she cannot remember where she has seen her. To ease his wife's suspicions, Serrano takes her hand and leads her back to the bedroom. Suddenly, the phone in the living room rings. It is Zita's sister calling. Her sister asks whether an earring found by the servant belongs to her. Zita firmly denies it, then hangs up, but her sister is deeply worried about Zita's life. At this moment, the exhausted Serrano only longs to enjoy Zita's care. A few days later, Serrano brings his wife to a New Year's Eve party. Zita recognizes Ikaza as the woman from the newspaper, while the Marquis knows nothing about it. As the dance begins, Zita is invited by a friend to dance, so Serrano and Ikaza also step onto the dance floor together. Ikaza blames him for not making a call to let her know he was safe. Serrano believes calling would not have been safe. He has to make sure every step is free of mistakes. Then he goes on, saying that every day feels dull to him, but every minute is filled with thoughts of her. Ikaza's anger instantly fades. She says she lost her earring that day. Serrano tells her he has already kept it safe, yet their graceful dance makes them the most dazzling pair in the room, drawing whispers from everyone around them. The next day, Francisco's wife discusses the matter with her husband. She says the earring did not belong to her sister, but Francisco replies, "Of course it was not your sister's. Everyone knows what kind of man Serrano is." His wife questions him, asking whether he is simply going to turn a blind eye to Serrano's behavior. Francisco replies that as long as Serrano fulfills his duties, he will not interfere in anything else. Meanwhile, Serrano's colleague also reminds him not to sink too easily into the whirlpool of love. After all, love can make people lose their senses, and it can also make them cold and ruthless, especially since he already has a singer in his life. Along with his current wife, he should not fall into more trouble, but Serrano replies that he will think about that question only after he understands the true meaning of love. After that, whenever he has free time, he spends it with Ikaza in their love affair. Serrano tells her, You are the only person who makes me feel free. Even if everyone in the world wants my life, I am still not afraid of danger, because I long to see you." Ikaza suggests that they could go to Paris for a few days to relax, pretending to visit her friend Balin. Then Ikaza looks at him with burning eyes and asks, "Do you love me?" Serrano answers with a kiss instead of words. Meanwhile, Olivia, who is gathering intelligence, arrives at the British embassy. She has overheard one of the Marquis's conversations. Alfonso XIII has passed the claim to his son Juan. The monarchists already know, but Francisco does not. The British ambassador gives Olivia a gun in case of emergency. At the same time, Italy sends someone to invite Francisco to take part in a conference, but he hands this difficult task to Serrano instead. The night before leaving, Serrano handles the notary arrangements for his wife. He also opens an account in her name at a Swiss bank. The children are made the direct beneficiaries. Serrano lifts the baby from the cradle, then holds his wife tightly. He is not even sure whose hands his fate is in anymore. Late at night, he cannot help calling the Marquis's house. After the maid answers, she says the call is from Italy. Ikaza rushes over. At that moment, the Marquis is also awakened. Ikaza hurriedly hangs up and claims it was her sister calling about some trivial matter. The next day, filled with worry, Ikaza calls her friend Balin and asks what she should do if Serrano called only to abandon her and never see her again. Balin comforts her, saying that Serrano, as foreign minister, is now in a sensitive wartime position, and she should not call him again. What you are doing is far too risky. Once a person has a lover, they should understand their own situation, but Ikaza still seems not to fully understand. Balin then says, "I am sorry, I should not be saying these things to you. Do you know how those noble men gain the positions they have today? Because they think only of power. Power stands above every friendship and every love, and in the end, the only one hurt will be you." But Ikaza says it is already too late now. She does not want to live the way she used to. She only wants to live for herself one more time. After she hangs up, the children rush happily into the room, only to see their mother crying in grief. Upset, Ikaza sends them out, and she reminds them to knock before entering from now on. The maids cannot understand why the lady, who seems to have everything, still has so many painful reasons to cry. At the same time, Zita's sister is complaining to Francisco that the media pays even more attention to Serrano than to her husband. She accuses her husband of giving the foreign minister too much power, but Francisco rejects this, insisting that Serrano is only doing his job. At this moment, General Varela visits and brings news of Alfonso XII's death. After learning this, Francisco immediately orders close surveillance of the monarchists and demands a list of Spaniards going to Rome for the funeral. At the same time, he issues a media ban forbidding the publication of any news about the royal family. The scene shifts, and Ikaza's sister comes to visit, bringing up Serrano, who is in Italy. Rumor has it that he is close to the singer Concha. Witnesses claim that as soon as he arrived in Italy, he went straight to Concha's residence and did not leave until 3 hours later. When these words reach Ikaza, they leave her heart aching, so Ikaza decides to cut off contact with Serrano. Before long, the Marquis takes the family to San Sebastian for the summer. He also specially invites Balin, the designer friend from Paris. Balin asks Ikaza about Serrano. When he learns that the two have ended things, he is relieved that his friend has made such a firm choice. But unexpectedly, because Germany has invaded the Soviet Union, Serrano, who had planned to vacation in Alicante, also changes his destination to San Sebastian. Because he is tied up with official duties, he decides to let his wife Zita take the children first. By coincidence, Zita arrives at the resort and happens to run into Ikaza's family. Ikaza introduces her mother and sister to Serrano's wife. Zita then invites them to dinner over the weekend, but on that very weekend, Serrano also arrives at the estate on time. Everyone discusses the turbulent political situation together. As night falls, the children pull the adults along to watch the brilliant fireworks. Ikaza is stopped by Serrano, who asks why she has not answered his calls. Ikaza says she has already made up her mind to cut ties with him, and she insists that what they are doing is wrong, but Serrano completely ignores her feelings and still tries to kiss her. This time, Ikaza firmly rejects him. Later that evening, the housekeeper tells the lady of the house that Serrano's driver has delivered a gift for Ikaza. Ikaza opens it and finds a book and a note inside. Late at night, Serrano quietly opens the iron gate and slips into the estate to meet Ikaza, but Olivia sees everything from the window. In the pavilion, Serrano reveals his wish to regain Francisco's trust. He asks Ikaza to help him identify the key monarchist figures closely connected to the Marquis. Only then does Ikaza realize that she is nothing more than a piece on the man's chessboard. At the same time, the light comes on in the Marquis's room. Ikaza has no choice but to leave in a hurry, but the lovesick woman soon turns back again, and she tells Serrano the names of 2 generals. Meanwhile, the British embassy receives the information it wanted from its informant and begins planning how to bring Serrano down. They also promise to keep Olivia's father off the battlefield and give her a new watch as a reward for serving her country. Before long, Francisco also hears the rumor and accuses Serrano of being involved with a lady from high society, but Serrano insists it is only gossip. Francisco warns him that if another scandal like this appears, he will strip him of the position of foreign minister. An angry Serrano storms straight to the British embassy and questions them about using such dirty tactics, but the other side denies everything. Serrano warns the British that if they do not want trouble, they should stop immediately, but this is clearly a rare chance to destroy him. Meanwhile, Ikaza has gone a long time without hearing from Serrano. Unable to control herself, she actually calls the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Unfortunately, the minister is in a meeting and cannot answer in time. At the same moment, the Marquis also notices how distant his wife has been these past 2 months. Their days seem to have lost the passion they once had, but Ikaza makes it clear that her problem has nothing to do with her husband. In the blink of an eye, a week passes, and Ikaza returns to Madrid. She keeps trying to contact Serrano, but when the call finally connects, the man is unusually impatient. He warns Ikaza that if they keep in close contact, it may bring trouble to both of them, and they agree to meet at 2 o'clock the next afternoon. The next day, Ikaza arrives at the meeting place with an anxious heart. The sweet words from before are, in Serrano's eyes, nothing but passing smoke. Serrano admits that all of Madrid is full of rumors about them, and even Francisco has heard about it, but Ikaza insists she does not care about gossip, because she loves him so deeply. Yet Serrano now looks afraid. He does not want to lose everything he has, and Ikaza has things most people do not. When Ikaza tries to get close to him again, Serrano is the one who steps away this time. Ikaza can hardly believe she has been abandoned so easily. At dinner, everyone's eyes turn toward the Marquis, making him uneasy. The Marquis's brother tells him that scandals about Serrano and Ikaza are everywhere, but the Marquis insists it is slander. He leaves the gathering in anger. Back home, he questions his wife about her relationship with Serrano, but Ikaza says she knows she has not been considerate enough, and asks her husband not to dwell on the slander against her. She says she feels people are always jealous of her because they cannot have everything she has now. The Marquis walks gently to her side, chooses to believe his wife's confession, and comforts her wounded heart with his actions. At the dress shop, people whisper about Ikaza, and by chance, she runs into Zita there again. During their conversation, she learns that Serrano will be going to Berlin alone for a few days. This makes the lovesick woman feel as if hope has been lit again. After returning home, she complains to the Marquis, saying she is sick of the rumors outside and wants to take her maid to Paris for a few days to clear her head. The Marquis suspects nothing and calmly agrees to her request. Soon, in a luxurious hotel room in Paris, Serrano suddenly appears. Ikaza has already thrown the man's cold-hearted words out of her mind. Their eyes meet, and Ikaza stops Serrano from explaining any further. Late that night, Serrano quietly leaves the room. When Ikaza wakes from sleep, she finds the emerald earring lying on the pillow, but Serrano has left without saying goodbye. She suddenly realizes that perhaps after this parting, they will never see each other again. But unexpectedly, at this crucial moment, she is pregnant. She tells the doctor not to inform the Marquis, falsely claiming she wants to give him a surprise. After returning home, Ikaza cannot wait to make the lie feel real, but doing this to a husband who has always been considerate of her, does she really not feel it is too cruel? In fact, because the Marquis has been unwell, he and Ikaza have slept separately for 5 months. This time is no exception. Seeing that her plan has failed, the helpless woman can only face reality. In the blink of an eye, the New Year's masquerade ball arrives. Ikaza asks Serrano to meet her privately, saying she has something important to tell him. Serrano meets her in the garden and tells her he only has 10 minutes. Ikaza holds him tightly, but he pushes her away without mercy. She tells Serrano that she is pregnant, but the man questions where the child truly came from. Ikaza begs Serrano, suggesting that they leave Spain together and pursue their real happiness, but Serrano asks whether she can give up everything. He says these are the rules of the game, and now the game is over. Hearing his words, Ikaza is shattered. She has been abandoned completely. wounded all over by so-called love. As the dinner bell rings, everyone celebrates the arrival of the new year. Ikaza drags her broken self slowly toward the center of the ballroom. At this moment, she is nearly collapsing, her makeup blurred by tears. Everyone sees her looking almost like a clown. She regrets not listening to her mother and her friend. At the same time, Serrano watches from a distance and chooses to remain coldly detached. Finally, Ikaza collapses to the floor in grief. High officials and nobles gather around her. Zita is about to go check on her, but her husband coldly stops her. Serrano leaves this messy scene with his wife. At that moment, only the Marquis, the man who truly loves her, rushes anxiously to Ikaza's side. When Ikaza wakes up, she wants to confess everything to her husband, but the Marquis tells her that some words, once spoken this late, no longer have any meaning. He will never expect complete honesty from marriage. Afterward, the lonely Marquis announces to the servants that his wife is pregnant and tells everyone to take good care of her. And Olivia, the planted informant, tells the British ambassador this important news. They plan to use this chance to make Serrano fall completely. A few days later, the maid Matilda comes to Ikaza in tears, saying her boyfriend has been sentenced to death for taking part in an attempt to assassinate General Varela. But at the critical moment, her boyfriend did not pull the trigger. Ikaza agrees to plead for him. Out of gratitude, Matilda reveals that Olivia has been hiding a gun. When they open the door, the woman who has been hiding in plain sight for years has already slipped away without a sound. Only now does Ikaza finally understand. Every move around her has been betrayed by the hired governess. Meanwhile, after Germany's defeat, the cunning Francisco realizes that Varela, who leans toward Hitler, is no longer useful. He decides to remove him and bring Serrano back into service, but Serrano offers his resignation first. Francisco knows Serrano's value and tries every possible way to keep him. Serrano demands that the death sentence of the man who tried and failed to assassinate Varela be cancelled. In order to keep Serrano, Francisco finally agrees. On the other side, Ikaza safely gives birth to a baby. They name the newborn girl Carmen. Time passes, and in the blink of an eye, 17 years have gone by. On the beach of San Sebastian, the children of nobles and officers play happily. They are regular visitors who come here every summer for vacation. That night, the beautiful Carmen walks over to Ramon and asks why he is not joining the other children in their games. Ramon asks Carmen in return whether she has ever thought about the future. In Madrid, they can never meet each other. As he speaks, he kisses Carmen with deep affection, but when the boy walks her home, their intimate moment together is seen by Carmen's mother, Ikaza. The next day, Ikaza goes to the place where Serrano often plays tennis. When Serrano sees her, he tries to hurry away, but Ikaza still stops him at the exit. Serrano tells her that he has made himself very clear. He does not want to meet her alone again. He only wants a peaceful life and does not want to be disturbed.
De Carmen precisamente quería hablar.
Es con su padre con quien tienes que hablar de Carmen.
Su padre eres tú.
Ikaza thought time would soften the past between them, but Serrano remains as cold and ruthless as ever. A few days later, Ikaza discovers the love letters Ramon has written to her daughter, so she has no choice but to meet that ungrateful man again. She tells Serrano that his son and her daughter have become far too close, but Serrano argues that the children have known each other since childhood, and she should not be too sensitive about it. Ikaza suggests sending Ramon abroad to study, but Serrano says his son has already finished his studies and suggests Ikaza send her daughter away instead. Ikaza anxiously says Carmen is only 17 and has not even finished high school. Besides, she is the child of both of us. Do you truly have no pity at all? But Serrano replies coldly that he does not care, though he knows Ramon is not the kind of person who falls in love casually. The scene shifts, and the two young people walk hand in hand to the seaside. The boy hopes to take his relationship with Carmen further, but Carmen insists that doing so would betray their parents. She says the only way they can be together is through marriage. When Ramon brings up marriage, Carmen is overjoyed. They decide to tell their parents only after everything is ready. Early the next morning, Ramon goes to the church to request the baptismal certificate needed for marriage. At the same time, Carmen nervously but methodically begins preparing her own arrangements. She invites her mother's designer friend Balin to design a wedding dress for her. She also casually mentions that the groom is Serrano's son, Ramon. This makes Balin quickly realize how serious the situation is, so he hurries to tell Ikaza what has happened. Zita's sister, who has come for mass, also learns from the priest that her nephew is getting married. She immediately calls her sister and demands to know why she was not told about such a major event. Zita explains that it must be a misunderstanding. Then Ramon confesses their plan to his parents. They only wanted to give them a surprise. Zita tells her husband in pain that she has spent her entire life suffering, doing everything she could to let the children grow up in a happy family. But this time, she will never let her son ruin his life because of Serrano's mistake. Meanwhile, Ikaza and her husband discuss sending their daughter to Switzerland for a year of study, but Carmen firmly refuses. The girl cannot understand what she has done wrong. Why must she be sent away at this exact moment? Late at night, in agony, she runs to Ramon's window and knocks on the glass in tears. At the same time, Zita, unable to sleep, happens to see the two of them leaving hand in hand. She cannot suppress her anger and immediately gets dressed, ready to go find Ikaza and demand that she discipline her daughter, but Serrano quickly stops her. Serrano warns that if she does this, the children may learn the secret. Meanwhile, Ramon advises Carmen to stay calm. He plans to have his parents go to the Marquis's house next week to formally ask for her hand. Under the starlit night, two pure hearts draw close together, and they embrace for love. The next day, the Marquis wants to reject the marriage on the grounds that his daughter is still too young, but Ikaza is determined to send her daughter abroad. This leads to a fierce conflict between mother and daughter. The Marquis can only pull them apart first. Seeing how firm her daughter has become, Ikaza discusses it with her husband and decides to reveal the secret that has been hidden for so long. At this moment, the Marquis lovingly asks Ikaza whether, after all these years, she has ever loved him. Ikaza answers honestly that she loved him in the past and still loves him now. The Marquis continues, saying that love has many layers.
Para mí solo ha habido dos, y una ya es pasado.
The scene shifts, and Ikaza goes to Serrano again. She plans to tell her daughter everything, but Serrano strongly opposes it. Ikaza says he has spent his whole life thinking only of himself, never considering anyone else's feelings. To the people who truly care about him, Serrano is nothing but a coward. In the end, they decide that Ikaza's writer sister will reveal the secret to Carmen. Soon, Carmen comes into the living room, facing the heavy atmosphere around her family. She feels a trace of unease. Her aunt closes the door and reveals the truth that has been hidden for 17 years. Carmen cannot accept the shocking news. Although her aunt tries to help her understand her mother's pain, Carmen is filled with resentment toward what her mother has done and says she will never forgive her for the rest of her life. Outside the room, Ikaza is in just as much pain, unable to hide the tears in her eyes. This is a mistake she can never make up for. Not long after, Carmen suddenly disappears. At that moment, Ramon comes to the house looking for Carmen. In the end, he finds the girl at the cliff where they once made their promise. Just as she is preparing to end her life, Ramon slowly approaches her. Just as Carmen turns to jump, Ramon pulls her back in time. That night, after the boy returns home, he begins questioning his mother about whether she knew all of this long ago. His mother does not answer him directly. At the same time, Serrano avoids the subject too, only hoping that Ramon will come home and peacefully find a job. He believes time will gradually make everything fade, but Ramon is deeply disappointed by his father's words. The next day, the heartbroken girl decides to enter a convent, and she says goodbye to her aging father. For Carmen, her father is the only person worthy of her love and respect. Ikaza takes her daughter near the convent and tries desperately to make Carmen stay. She insists Carmen still has so much time ahead of her, and that they can talk properly, but Carmen believes that for 17 whole years, her mother never had the courage to tell the truth. More words will only deepen Carmen's pain. Ikaza can only watch through tears as her daughter walks away from her. At this point, this fact-based miniseries is nearing its end. Serrano gradually grows distant from Francisco and turns toward liberal ideas. In his later years, he enters the legal field and becomes a lawyer. He dies peacefully in Madrid in 2003, living to the age of 101, an astonishingly long life. Ikaza, the woman who loved so deeply, dies in 1996 at the age of 82. Her husband had passed away 24 years before her. Meanwhile, Carmen ends her secluded life in the convent and goes to Africa as a missionary. After returning home, that experience helps her step into politics with surprising ease. In the 1970s, Carmen's political career reaches its peak. She has a far-reaching influence on many major decisions during Spain's transition period. She dies in 1999, her life ending at the age of 55. She never marries, and only shortly before her death does she meet her father Serrano for the first time. This real historical romance was adapted into a TV drama in 2016, causing a huge sensation in Spain. The story may sound jaw-dropping, but the real events are even harder to look at directly. Only at the very last moment do they stop a romance that violates basic morality, and this truly happened in history. This unspeakable love is difficult to understand or accept in the real world. Only a love that is open and honest can bring real peace and fulfillment to the heart.